I'm Lera-og, a fourth-year BEd student at Norso Shaton campus. In this video, I will be discussing about study and thinking skills, a vital topic in education that supports effective learning, problem-solving, and lifelong understanding. Study and thinking skills refer to the purposeful strategies learners use to acquire information, understand lessons, and retain knowledge, and also to reflect on their own learning processes. These skills influence not only academic performance, but also how learners apply what they know in real life and classroom situations. As future teachers, our role goes beyond delivering lessons. We are expected to help learners develop habits that make learning strategic, reflective, and meaningful. When students understand how to study and how to think about their thinking, learning becomes deeper, more efficient, and more lasting. By the end of this video, you should be able to identify essential strategies that support comprehension, memory retention, and information processing. And to recognize the importance of integrating study skills and thinking skills for academic success and lifelong learning. And also to analyze texts to identify main ideas, supporting details, and implied meanings. Demonstrate critical thinking by evaluating and reflecting on information, and to show readiness for independent and reflective learning. In this discussion, I will cover mnemonic strategies, note-taking strategies, reading comprehension and reading strategies, scanning and skimming with guidelines, summarizing, test-taking strategies, and metacognition as the unifying concept. Before we begin, I want you to pause this video and reflect on this question. Why is it important for teachers to understand not only what students learn, but also how students learn? So this question leads us to our first major idea. Now that we have established this idea, let us move smoothly to the next concept. Understanding study and thinking skills. Study and thinking skills are intentional and purposeful actions learners take before, during, and after learning. These skills help learners take control of their learning instead of depending solely on teachers, textbooks, or memorization. Before learning, learners plan. Planning includes setting goals, identifying what needs to be learned, choosing strategies, and preparing materials. For example, a student who checks the coverage of a lesson and prepares questions in advance is already engaging in effective study behavior. During learning, learners monitor their understanding. They ask themselves questions such as, do I understand this idea? Does this example make sense? Or should I reread or ask for clarification? Monitoring allows learners to make adjustments while learning is still happening. After learning, learners evaluate. Evaluation involves reflecting on performance, identifying strengths and weaknesses, and deciding what to improve next time. A learner who reviews past mistakes and changes study strategies is practicing evaluation. This cycle of planning, monitoring, and evaluating transforms learning from a passive activity into an active process. Now, that we understand what study and thinking skills are and how they operate throughout the learning process, let us focus on strategies that specifically support memory and recall. So first is the mnemonic strategies. Mnemonic strategies are techniques that help learners remember information by organizing ideas in meaningful and memorable ways. Instead of memorizing isolated facts, learners create connections that make recall easier. One common mnemonic strategy is the use of acronyms, where the first letters of a group of words form a new word. A familiar example is the Roy G. which represents the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Instead of remembering seven separate items, learners recall one structured word, making retrieval faster and more accurate. Another strategy is acrostics, where learners create a sentence using the first letter of each item to be remembered. For example, to remember the musical notes E, G, B, D, and F, learners use the sentence, "Every good boy does define." Each word cues the correct letter, supporting recall and sequence. Chaining involves creating a short story where each idea leads to the next. For, for instance, to remember the words teacher, book, classroom, exam, and the learner imagines a teacher carrying a book into a classroom to prepare students for an exam. Remembering the story helps recall the correct order. Chunking. Chunking breaks large amounts of information into smaller, manageable units. For example, the number 202512091998 becomes easier to remember when grouped as 2025, 12, 9, and 1998. This strategy reduces cognitive overload. Next one is the imagery or visualization. It involves forming mental pictures. When learning about the water cycle, a student imagines water evaporating into clouds, falling as water, and flowing back into rivers. Visual images strengthen memory because the brain processes pictures more efficiently than abstract words. Next is the keyword. Keyword method uses sound-alike words to form associations. To remember cerebrum and cerebellum, learners associate cerebrum with a drum, which is large, and the cerebellum with a bell, which is smaller. The size difference reinforces understanding. Mnemonic strategies are effective because they require active engagement, meaningful organization, and multiple memory cues. So I have a question here. If remembering information is important, how do learners organize and record information during lessons? Now that we have established this idea, let us move smoothly to the next concept. Note-taking strategies. Note-taking is an essential study skill that supports comprehension, organization, and recall. Effective note-taking is not about writing everything down, but about identifying what is important. Learners must listen actively, recognize key ideas, and restate information in their own words. Copying information word for word often leads to passive learning. So there are two main types of note-taking strategies: linear and non-linear. Linear note-taking follows the order of the lesson. One example is outlining, where information is arranged into main topics, subtopics, and the supporting details. This method works well for structured lessons with clear organization. Another linear method is the sentence method, where each important idea is written as a separate sentence. This approach is useful during fast-paced lessons when organizing information immediately is difficult. Nonlinear note-taking focuses on relationships among ideas. Mind maps and concept maps visually connect ideas to a central concept. For example, a student creates a mind map linking study skills to mnemonics, note-taking, and reading strategies. When learners review notes and notice gaps or confusions, they seek clarification. This shows awareness of their own understanding. Once information is recorded, how do learners actively understand and interpret what they read? Okay, so now that we have established this idea, let us move smoothly to the next concept. Reading comprehension and reading strategies. Reading comprehension is the ability to understand, interpret, and evaluate written text. Academic reading requires active engagement, not just decoding words. Critical reading involves understanding what the text says, reflecting on how it is written, and inferring what it means. Strategies include previewing, contextualizing, questioning, reflecting, summarizing, evaluating arguments, and comparing ideas. Functional reading focuses on interpreting visual aids such as photographs, diagrams, charts, tables, graphs, and maps. This visual support understanding by presenting information in organized and accessible ways. Active reading means interacting with the text through producting, visualizing, connecting ideas, questioning, clarifying, understanding, and evaluating information. These approaches help learners move beyond surface understanding towards deeper comprehension. Please pause for a moment. If learners do not always need to read every word, what strategies help them read more efficiently? Alright, now that we have established this idea, let us move smoothly to the next concept. Scanning and skimming. Scanning and skimming are reading strategies used for specific purposes. Scanning involves searching for specific information without reading everything. To scan effectively, learners should understand the organization of the material, stay focused on what they are looking for, and use visual clues such as headings or bold text and confirm the information found. Skimming involves reading quickly to get the general idea of a text. Learners focus on titles, headings, introductions, and summaries. Skimming is useful for previewing, reviewing, and selecting materials. Both strategies save time and support strategic reading when used appropriately. So please pause for a moment. After identifying important ideas, how can learners condense information to check understanding? Alright, now that we have established this idea, let us move to the next concept. Summarizing. Summarizing involves condensing information into its essential ideas, using one's words. This strategy helps learners distinguish main ideas from details. When learners summarize, they actively process information which strengthens comprehension and retention. Difficulty summarizing often signals incomplete understanding. Please pause for a moment. When learners face assessments, what strategies help them apply what they know effectively? Now that we have established this idea, let us move smoothly to the next concept. Test-taking strategies. Test-taking strategies help learners manage time, reduce anxiety, and apply appropriate cognitive strategies during assessments. Examples including reading instructions carefully, answering easier questions, first eliminating incorrect options, monitoring time, and reviewing answers. Learners who adjust pacing and reflect on performance demonstrate self-regulation. So the metacognitive strategies. Metacognition is thinking about one's own thinking. It involves planning learning, monitoring understanding, and evaluating outcomes. For example, a learner plans a study schedule, checks comprehension during review, and reflects on results to improve future performance. Metacognition connects all study and thinking skills and empowers learners to become independent and reflective. So teachers can integrate study and thinking skills by modeling strategies, guiding practice, and encouraging reflection. Ending lessons with reflection questions or summaries promotes deeper learning. Now that we have established this idea, let us move smoothly to the next concept. So in conclusion, study and thinking skills are essential for effective learning and quality teaching. As future educators, our responsibility is to help learners become strategic, reflective, and independent thinkers. Thank you for watching this video. Continue practicing these strategies and applying them in your learning and future classrooms.